Hello again! After my last video on the idea of a silver game, I had a lot of ideas for future stuff swirling around in my head, but I didn't know what to do next exactly. Until I saw a comic, that is. Well, part of a comic. It was a swapped around plot of Sonic Heroes by Kitari artists on DeviantArt, of Amy being the protagonist, with Neo Metal Amy being dejected at her counterpart. I'll probably put the comic up on screen now, as well as put in the description for you all to see. But the idea seemed more of a joke to me at the time, but I did like the art, and gears started turning in my head. What if Sonic wasn't the one on South Island on that fateful day? What if Sonic wasn't the greatest rival to Ivo Robotnik, the Eggman himself? What if it was Amy? Quickly, ideas of Sonic CD came to head, and I realized I had a golden idea on my hands for something great, grand even, and one final idea I had to finish it off with a nice bow and ribbon. And so here we are. I do want to lay out some hefty ground rules, however, before we get started. First, this isn't just a small project, and will more than likely be several parts, much longer than the Silver Game script video by hours easily. This is something I'll be working on for probably over the course of a few months. And at the end of it, once I consider the series finished, I'll make a complete full series video like what most What If creators do. It's just nice to have, and while it is, copying content in a way, it's my own content, so like it makes sense. It's a good idea. Don't ruin something that's not broke, yada yada. Second, there will be no romance between Sonic and Amy here. I am no romance writer, for one. And for two, I'd be writing a romance for a female protagonist. And that isn't easy for just a regular guy like myself. And for three, Sega would never go for it in this hypothetical timeline, so it won't be the case here. Third, and probably most shocking for a good amount of people here, Sonic will still be the fastest thing alive. He's still going to be Sonic. His character will be changed slightly to fit the What If, and we'll get into that, but he will still be the free-spirited Blue Blur, the fastest thing alive. Amy will be merely taking up the protagonist's role in his place. Fourth, I will not be changing Amy's character design to fit this What If. However, I will be using a lot of IDW art and fan art images to help put this together. And on that note, fifth and finally, like with the Silver video, I'm not an artist and don't have the funds to commission art for this video, so all art used in each part will be linked below in the description that isn't just a generic render. Same goes for music and all. The final part, however, this poses an issue for, because whenever that is released, just the art alone would be more than the description will allow me to put in. So what I'm going to do is that each individual part will have each individual part's links. Everything used in that part that is fan made or this or that, whether it be the music or whatever, will be attached to that specific part and nothing else. The full series video will have links to each part, below instead, as well as, if not just a playlist link, as well as just other links for stuff. But if you're watching this, say, on the final part or the full video, and you're looking for a specific piece of art or music I used, I implore you instead to just go to the original part that's from. I know it can be a bit convoluted, and I'll try and make chapters for this video when it's fully compiled and all, but yeah. With that long, dragged-out preamble out of the way, the only other thing I want to say left before we get on to the what if is that these videos are not easy to make, man. I'm using a crappy free editing software on an old, dying laptop that takes hours to render a 20-minute video, if it even renders right. I normally don't shove it this early on, but liking, sharing, subscribing, using that new hype thing I've been hearing about, it really does help, and I hate that I'm shoving it this early, but please, just, it would help so much. And if you do want to end up supporting me further, potentially get me off this old crappy rig and all, I'm in the middle of setting up a Ko-fi, and while it's not the best thing to have, even a throne where you can buy me some things on there, mainly just like a soda or something. Once I can set up too, I'll set up YouTube memberships, but that'll only be $1 at most. I don't want to lock anything away from you guys, and there won't be many benefits, if any, to having it. It'll just be a sort of badge. I do plan to do emotes eventually, but like, again, that's in the future when I have more money and all. I'm currently just trying to save up for a new PC to make editing, recording, playing games, all that just so much easier. But due to my personal situation, funds aren't easy to come by, so it's a very, very slow process. Any and all help goes literal miles, genuinely, and even if it's just liking and sharing the video around, that means more than I can state in words, genuinely. But with the YouTube stuff out of the way, well, let's begin. Well, let's actually start with the how do we begin question. After all, Amy isn't on South Island originally, with her introduction being Sonic CD. So we truly need to begin with Amy's new, changed origins. We don't know much about Amy's actual upbringing in canon, just that at 8 she was led to the Never Lake and Little Planet by her tarot readings, where she would find her Prince Charming. Because of this, we first start with a young, rambunctious 8-year-old Amy Rose traveling across the sea to South Island. She wanted to be free of her life before then, and had found a biplane that she named the Petal, that she was using to skim across the waters to South Island. She tried actually using it to fly, but was too scared and generally just stayed close to the water on her journey. When arriving on the island, however, finally able to stretch her legs and get off the plane and all, she immediately noticed something was wrong. The animals around the island were running and hiding, and robots were capturing them. Infuriated by this, she grabbed her only tool she brought with her on this journey on the Petal, her small but very powerful Pico Pico hammer. We see a version of it in the Mania shorts where she bonks Metal Sonic, so her having it here makes sense enough. Likewise, Amy isn't as fast or as capable of jumping as high as Sonic, but with her hammer she can easily make up for both of those weaknesses, allowing her to charge up and propel herself forwards and upwards, as well as just allowing her to use it in her spin jump for a more versatile attack compared to Sonic's normal spin jump. From there, the plot of Sonic 1, now Amy the Hedgehog, goes pretty much the same as normal. Going through all the same zones, getting the as yet then 6 Chaos Emeralds, and saving South Island. After the adventure, however, Amy finds herself shocked. She didn't expect to have to do so much work coming here, more for freedom, but ended up loving the journey and wanting to go on another. That's when she got word of a rare event occurring soon. The arrival of a little planet. Hearing such a mythical concept of it, and wanting another adventure after her last amazing one, Amy quickly ran back to the pedal to use it to, quote-unquote, fly to the little planet, gliding across the water to land, where then she dashed off to it. Little did she know, however, the Mad Doctor and another person were also on their way to the planet holding the Time Stones. She arrives just in time to be dropped to her feet in shock as the planet's been chained down, covered in so much metal and machinery, and she knows instantly who's behind all of it because of the designs of the robots and the machines. Before she could get back up, however, she was then blown back by a gust of wind of someone dashing past her. As the dust settles, she sees who it is, none other than Sonic the Hedgehog. Looks down at a card of sorts before looking back up at the little planet. Seems my tarot reading was right after all. People are in need of help up there. The classic blue blur hadn't even noticed the young girl who screamed back at him for getting dust in her eyes, causing the two to have a short conversation. Sonic apologizes, lifting the frustrated and flustered girl up, and began to explain that he had taken after tarot readings from an old legend that he had heard about, and it led him to a little planet now seeing that it was marked with the tower. Amy, confused how cards could dictate anything, let alone the future, says she was already on her way here to explore the planet, and if she's right on who's behind this, she's the perfect person to fix it. Not this cocky young boy who can barely even notice a fine girl like her. Sonic looked confused before cutting the conversation somewhat short, and finally darting up the chain, screaming back to her in the process. Let's make it a race. Whoever saves the little planet first wins. She pouts in frustration and anger before using her hammer to catch up with the blue blur. She was slower than the blue hedgehog, but using her Pico Pico hammer to propel herself allowed her to catch up with Sonic fast. Sonic, who had reached a dead end and was unable to figure out where to go next. The two began to briefly bicker as Amy has confidence she can get past this before metallic clinging darts past them. Sonic screams out as he's grabbed by the robotic form. This was the latest, greatest invention of the Doctor, Metal Amy. Sonic tried to spin out of the arms of the robotic doppelganger, but just as Metal Sonic took the strengths of Sonic and amplified them, Metal Amy took after her strengths. Literally her strength in this case, along with her speed and having her own hammer. This was a final straw for the young hedgehog, and Amy began a rampage through Little Planet. A rampage that, funnily enough, gave her the thrill and adventure she sought. The generators and time stones allowing her to have a journey like no other. even if only it redoubled her efforts to stop the Mad Doctor and save the annoying Sonic. Especially seeing so many projections she kept destroying of a robotic doppelganger, torturing animal after animal, even using its hammer at times on them. Eventually, Amy had made it to Stardust Speedway, where she could hear screaming in the far distance. She recognized it, just needing to make sure who it was at first, but before she could, a wall was put in front of her, and both Eggman and Metal Amy arrived. Her metallic counterpart prepared for a race, readying its hammer and going into a dashing stance. Amy realized what was going on as the Doctor laughed and prepared to race against her counterpart. The walls opened and both dashed forward, neck and neck. Amy was kept on her toes as Metal Amy used rocket boots to try and keep speed as she spun her torso around separately with her hammer in hand, head focusing on the goal. Amy didn't let up, however, and even with the Doctor using a laser to try and prevent Amy from catching up, the girl got to the end first, knocking down the wall before Metal Amy could prevent her, and walking over to the tied-up hedgehog as the robot crashed hard into the closed wall. "Seems I got my race after all, and won it too." Amy teased Sonic more like a little brother here, the blue blur, sighing heavily before finally Amy broke the metal chains holding him in place and freeing him. Sonic, now free, thanked the young girl under his breath. He prepared to dart off, but before he did, he turned and looked at her with a smile. "We'll meet again. I just know it. We're not too different, you know." He chuckled before finally vanishing in a flash of blue. If they had actually raced, Amy wondered who would have won. From there, the events of Sonic CD, now technically Amy CD, go about the same as in canon. After which, Amy breaks the chain personally, holding Little Planet in place with her hammer and freeing the place for good. Afterwards, she thought she needed a break from all of this and decided a different island could provide that. Heading back to the pedal, she finally begins to fly with the plane, getting some confidence as she does, which is quickly removed as a storm caused her to crash land on her destination. She was unscathed, but the pedal was in a wreck, and she couldn't help but bawl at the loss of her plane. Her crying, however, was interrupted by her hearing someone crying out and jeering in the distance. Quickly, she saw why as she headed to the commotion. Two foxes were bullying a third for his mutation of having two tails, and Amy's rage boiled at this. Seeing this, she chased off the bullies with her hammer, while the young two-tailed fox was enamored by the fact that someone was willing to help her. Amy, like with Sonic, would help Tails out and become a sort of big sister for the young fox, even at her younger, similar age to him, and allow for him to accept both his jeer nickname as his own in pride and his mutation, even cheering as Tails began to figure out just what he could do with his, well, tails. From here, Sonic 2 happens and nothing really changes, with the finale seeing the young girl channel the energies of the Chaos Emeralds and accessing Super Amy for the first time to defeat the Doctor. While Amy is slower than Sonic, as we've gone on here, it's not by an amount meaningfully enough to change the events of the game. Likewise, Sonic 3 and all the classic era games after all have similarly little to no changes. Aside from one, the ruins of Angel Island, and yes, Knuckle was able to knock the emeralds out of her, she would still be weaker than him. But the ruins of Angel Island now show a pink figure surrounded in a golden light fighting against a machine of sorts. This will mean nothing right now, but let's just say it has an implication for later. And with that, the classic era is done. Games like Mania, Knuckles, Chaotix, so on, they all go close enough to canon that there's no point in mentioning them, with the only differences being Amy either teasing or bickering more with the other characters and teams, more than Sonic would have, or Metal Amy being the one transformed by the different powers and having different mecha counterparts, but I don't want to leave this here. That'd be too short if you ask me. And so, hopefully coming soon as a second part, I can open the heart of this what if. Thank you all so much for watching this. I know it's only part 1 and we mainly focused on only Sonic 1 and CD, now Amy 1 and Amy CD, but even as not much else changed, I promise that with the next part alone, enough will change that it will be paying off. If you like this at all, you know the YT standard at this point. Like, subscribe, hype, all that crap. I have a lot of ideas for projects in the future in the pipeline I want to do properly. And I want to properly do so much more content in general. And if I can get a new PC, well... Anyways, that's a topic for another time. Have a great day, night, week, month, rest of the year, whatever. I hope to see you again sometime soon.